Hi, everyone. So here we go. Buy, sell, or hold. This is getting to great investing number two, and it's a really, really important one. First of all, thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like, share. That's how the channel grows. I really appreciate the support. The first one, getting to great investing number one, was talking about how to invest certain companies. This one is all about buying and selling and holding because it's one of the most important concepts you can learn about investing. So before we get to the buy, sell, and hold, let me just say that I'm not a financial advisor. I know I'll get some comments back from that, but I have been investing for a pretty long time, almost 35 years, have learned a lot, but the stuff I'm saying is just my opinion. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell a certain investment. So with that said, before we get to buy, sell, and hold, we have to figure out, how do we get here and why this video? Okay. So there are certain things that are in investing are difficult to understand. Sometimes the markets will go up, sometimes they will go down, and that is the history of investing. If you go back 100 years, the S&P 500, which I'll mention briefly, that's a basket of 500 really big companies. That is called a benchmark. It's when somebody says compare your investment to the S&P, that is often what they'll talk about. But if you go through the history of the S&P, generally speaking, it has gone up, and that'll be something I discuss. But why buy, sell, and hold? Well, unless you're kind of living on Mars, you know that the markets have been really rattled this past week because of the tariffs announced by President Trump. But before we get to that, how did we get to that point? And it's going to be really interesting when I show you a graph. Most people think it's just been the past 2 days, but that's actually not true. When President Trump took office, the market was actually doing pretty well. And actually, during his very beginning, it was doing very well. On about February 20th or so, don't use that exact day, but it's very close to that. You started to notice a decrease in the stock markets. And again, there's different ones. There's the S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell. Those are mainly where people invest, okay? But you noticed a downturn. And you can see on the graphic here, I'm going to put up a bunch of different graphics, and you can see around that date exactly what happened in the market. Now, it wasn't dramatic. It didn't just crash, but there was definitely a slight decrease in the value of each thing I'm going to show you. One's going to be Walmart, one will be Apple, and then I will show you the various markets so you can see them, okay? But around February 20th, the market started to decline, and that was right around the time that President Trump had announced his idea about tariffs. Now, somebody might say, well, Craig, how come they didn't just drop? Well, they didn't just drop because there were no tariffs put really in place yet. He was talking about it, especially wide scale. There was issues with Mexico and Canada, but not the whole world. So a lot of people, and actually myself included, thought that maybe it was just a negotiation tactic, try to get other countries to reduce their tariffs, which I do think that is what he's trying to do. But that hadn't happened yet. So people weren't sure what to expect. And that point is incredibly critical when it comes to investing and also why the markets are down. They're down because of the tariffs, but they're also down because businesses want some kind of certainty. It is very hard for a business to invest their own money and to grow if they don't know what's coming yet. It's really, really important. People keep saying that, yes, build America and build American businesses. And yes, I'm all for that, all for building in America and all for using American companies. But it's very hard for American companies to build if they don't know what's coming. If there's going to be a huge amount of tariffs and it's going to affect how much money your business is earning, it's very hard to spend billions of dollars to invest. Okay, so bottom line is we've kind of gotten here because there was a talk about tariffs, and then obviously the tariffs came. So you see the chart here that shows you the drop in the markets when the tariffs were announced. They're all around 10, 11, 12% in that range. And you can see it. You can see the graph that I'm showing. It has the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, and they're all dropping at the same time, and that's because of tariffs being announced. And we don't know if that's going to last. So that leads to the main part of this conversation, which is, do you buy and do you sell and do you hold? Okay. And again, that's just really critical to understand it. So you have to think about, first of all, and I'm going to try again to not go too technical here because I want people to be able to understand it. The first thing is, before you're buying any kind of investment vehicle, and when I say that, I mean either a company or an ETF or a mutual fund. An ETF is called an exchange traded fund, and that is just a basket of stocks. So the S&P is a basket of stocks. The NASDAQ is a basket of stocks. If I buy Apple, that's one stock, okay? So the first thing is you have to decide is, do you want to buy? And if you're going to do that, what is your time horizon? So it's really critical. And a time horizon means that if you need money in a month from now, you probably shouldn't be investing. Now, again, I'm not telling you not to. That's your choice. I'm giving you my opinion that I personally would not invest my money. If I needed the money in a month, I put it in the bank. Now, maybe I need it in a year. Okay, well, that's a longer time horizon. What if I needed it in 5 years? That's even longer. So the longer the time horizon, the more apt that there's a greater chance of you growing your portfolio. And the reason I say that is when you look at the 5-year chart that I put up here, you can see that it's done well over the past 5 years. It's right up on the board. You can see it. Now, maybe it's down now, but over 5 years, it's actually done well. And that's really critical. Understanding your time horizon, how long you're going to invest. I've been investing for 35 years, maybe even a little bit more. And most of the time, I kind of let my companies just grow because I believe that they're really good companies. And that's kind of the next thing when it relates to buying. When you're deciding to buy something, you have a couple options. You can buy an individual stock, like a Walmart or an Apple, things that I put up, or you can buy, again, those baskets, that S&P 500 and ETF, which are a group of stocks. And there are advantages sometimes to both. An individual stock, if it does really well, will usually outperform or do better than a basket of stocks. But a basket of stocks is much safer because if the one stock goes down, but it's in a basket of 500, it won't influence your returns as much. So time horizon is critical. Obviously, how much money you have is going to be critical. And also just thinking to yourself, what do you want to invest in? So that's the first thing. Should you buy? Should you buy right now? Nobody can time the market. It's not for me to tell you whether to buy or not. You have to think about what your time horizon is, and do you believe the market will be better in a certain amount of time, whatever that is. Next, should you sell? Well, I mean, that's always an option. You might need the money. And if you do, you're obviously going to sell, and you might pay something called a capital gains tax. That means you made money. You're going to be taxed on the money that you made. Another time you might sell is you just might think that the market's not going to come back. And then that would give you another reason to sell. One of the things that's really important, and I've had people ask me this, have you sold since, this whole situation? And my answer is no, I have not. And it's because I do believe that longer term, a year, 2 years, 5 years, the market will have recovered from where it is now. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody can know that. But that is personally what I think. So for me, I haven't sold things. And again, maybe at some point, if things keep deteriorating, at some point I might have to do that because I just believe that I want to, cut my losses. But as of now, I haven't. And that's something that if you are invested, you have to decide whether or not you're going to get out or not. Um, and the last part is, do I hold? And this is assuming that you're in the market. So holding just means that you're not buying or selling anything. And when you generally hold, you're obviously holding because you believe that the market is coming back, but maybe you're a little bit hesitant to put money in. And that also goes back to that time horizon, I've talked about multiple times. You have to think about whether or not, or how long you have to invest. And again, that's a personal thing. So the buying is basically, you look at your time horizon, you look at the companies you want to invest in. Do you believe that they have some longer term potential? The selling, obviously, you might need the money. You might be scared. You might want to get out of the market. That's another reason. And holding just means you're just standing pat. You're kind of just letting it sit where it is. So that's it for the buy, selling, and holding. Um, you can ask me questions, put a comment in. I'd love to hear it, and I will try my best to answer as best I can. One other thing that I wanted to mention that is very critical. And people that are following me know that I've posted stuff. I talk about tariffs. I talk about the economy. My belief is that the American economy is still strong, and it's going to be stronger over time. I don't know how long that's going to be, but I do really believe that. So I also believe that investing for the long term is an incredible way to build wealth. In future videos, I'll talk about like dividends, how to get money each month, and some recommendations that might be helpful. If you are invested in the market or are thinking about it, please try not to get emotional. Emotional buying, emotional selling is generally not a good idea because you're not looking at the fundamentals of what's going on. And I simply mean by that, we know pretty well why the market has dropped. You saw it in the charts that I put up. Right around the time the tariffs were announced, the market dropped, and over the last couple of days, it's dropped because of the tariffs. If those tariffs kind of work themselves out, which we all hope they do, there's a very good chance the market will go up again. So you don't want to get emotional about investing. There's a great movie, Wall Street, with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen. And Michael Douglas is obviously he's kind of like the head guy, and he talks about that, about not being emotional. And I think that's really, really critical. So I hope you got something out of today. I hope it was beneficial. Please remember, subscribe to the channel, ask a lot of questions. Remember, go back and look at some of the charts that I put up because I do think they are very, very important to see. So with that said, thank you again for all you do. I appreciate you. Have a great day.